and welcome to What the Faux Travel Podcast with Nick and Amy. This is a mini episode about long-term travel and coming home.
Hey guys, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us for the third and final long-term travel episode. This wraps up everything, and it talks about we talk about how we're adjusting to life back home after such a big trip.
Yeah, it was a massive trip, and so many of you have got in touch asking for this third episode. So I'm glad the other two have helped. I'm glad we're inspiring you to travel, not only on little holidays, but also to travel full time. A lot of you are really interested about, quitting your job, selling everything and leaving, which is really exciting to us as well.
You know what? I'm actually surprised how well these episodes have gone down. I thought people would be more interested in, when we talk about individual countries and getting into the details of each country. But actually, Amy's right. A lot of people have said, when's this episode coming? We've also had a little mid-season break, which I do apologise for. But now you guys know what your life will be like without us one day, whenever that day comes. Because January, we weren't able to release podcasts. And we're going to talk about it in detail, obviously. But it was just because since coming home, our lives have been so hectic. But we're actually quite settled now. And we'll go into all the details in this podcast.
Yes, so in this episode, we're going to talk about what's happened since the last long-term episode. So that was in Ecuador. We've done an amazing amount of things since then. We're going to tell you what it's like been coming home, seeing family, have we got jobs yet, where are we living, all of that sort of thing. And then loads of you have sent in questions through Instagram. Thank you very much for that. So we're going to be answering all your questions. And then we're going to finish with telling you our overall budget. What did we spend in a year and 2 months of traveling full time for the both of us? We're going to go through those costs. And then we're going to finish with questions like, how has this changed us and would we do it again? So that's what you've got to look forward to in this episode.
Loads. So, since we last had this conversation, Amy said we were in Ecuador, which was great. You've heard our last episode. It was fantastic. We loved Ecuador. Then
we went to Colombia.
Then after that, San Blas Islands, which you've already heard about.
Which then went into mainland Panama.
We were then in Costa Rica for a little bit. I've added it to my list of countries I've been to, but we were there for like 4 or 5 days. It doesn't really count that much.
Yeah, so we haven't made an episode about it. But then after Costa Rica, we flew to Mexico and spent over 3 months in Mexico, traversing the whole country, basically.
Massive. That was epic. You'll hear about that at the end of this series. Then we finished in the USA, where we were able to catch up with some friends, first in LA. Then
we went to Chicago and New York. But then part of the big plan was to go to Hawaii, but that never happened.
Yeah, ran out of time, ran out of money. We also thought maybe Canada, but again, it was just a stretch too far.
And then we came home and it was really scary. It was really sad, but also really happy because we got to see friends and family. Yeah, so we've been home. So let's just talk about that moment when we first got home. Actually, let's cue in how we felt in New York. We just tried to look for our flight home. Couldn't find it on the JFK website, but it was all fine in the end. But I was asking him, how are you feeling about traveling home tonight?
I feel really strange. I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it's real. And I don't really know how I'm going to feel until we are back home. But I am excited to go home. I'm ready. A year and 2 months is a long time. I'm tired. I miss people from back home. I miss English food. I miss how easy it is to have a home, even though we're not going to have a home. You see, that's the thing. I think about all the things that I'm looking forward to coming home, it's nice to be home and stuff like that, but we're still going to be homeless. We'll be staying with friends and family for a little while we sort our life out. So real life things, like maybe finding a job and finding a house, I worry a bit about, a little bit anxious about. But overall, yeah, I'm done with being on the road. I'm excited to go home, but it's weird. It's mixed feelings. What about you?
Since I've been ill for the past 3 to 4 weeks from Mexico City, I had a stomach bug, and that's just kind of made me want to go home. Those times when you're ill while traveling and you just think, I just want to be home. But the weird thing is we don't have a home. So even if we did travel back to the UK early because of my illness, we wouldn't have had our own space to go home to. We would have stayed with family, but we don't have what we used to call home. So that's all a bit scary. But yeah, it's a very weird feeling. I feel more emotional about going home than I did about leaving. Everybody said, oh, it's so scary, you've quit your job, you've sold everything and you're going, but that didn't feel scary to me. It felt right. But this feels scary. Going home, yeah, again, I'm also excited to see family and eat food and just have everything be normal, like walk down the street and not be attacked by someone saying, you know, buy this, give me your money, because that doesn't happen in England. Everybody kind of keeps themselves to themselves on the street. So, yeah, I'm just looking forward to relaxing and just not having that constant urge to get up the hotel and see where we are and explore, which has been incredible, and I wouldn't change it for the world, but I'm now ready for that to have a little break from that.
Yeah, we always have to think about what we're doing next, like where we're going to stay, how we're going to get there. It's a lot, and then when you do get to somewhere, then you've got to think, right, what are we doing, what we're going to see. It's full on, it's like a full-time job. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully life being a bit easier. And we're going home around Christmas time, which I think makes it better. Like in January, by that point, we'll try and sort our lives out. You know, what are we doing? But I can't believe it's been over a year. That's a big chunk of our lives. And yeah, even though I'm exhausted, what an adventure. Like all the places we've been, people we've met, stuff we've learnt. It has been an incredible adventure. But I'm ready for it to end.
Today is the last day. We're in New York. We've done all of our exploring, and in 5 hours' time, we are going to be on that plane home. And your mum is going to greet us at the airport, and she's going to take us home.
Look after us, please, Mum. That's what we want. That's what she wants. Everyone's a winner. Just look after us for a couple of weeks. Mad. And even if we wanted to stay an extra day on this trip, we can't, because we're in New York right now, and it's very expensive. We've literally run out. Like we've timed it really well. Somehow we've run out of money today. We've got just about enough to get to the airport.
We've run out of money. We've run out of memory cards on our camera.
That's true.
We've run out of energy. We need to go home.
I really think we sound absolutely shattered.
We actually really do.
Don't we? I'm listening, obviously I know it's us, but I'm listening to those two people thinking, those poor kids, someone needs to look after them. And we were exhausted. The final picture we put up of our trip was on the Brooklyn Bridge. So many people commented on it on Instagram saying, Nick, you look really tired. Looks like you need to go home.
And you do, like looking back at it, I mean, your hair's all fuzzy, you're wearing a hoodie, you just look tired in the face. It was definitely time to come home. But obviously, like now we're home, we're like, when are we going on holiday again?
Yeah, we are getting tempted. We're already thinking about what we're going to do later this year. But we can establish that we were ready to come home. We were exhausted. So should we go into detail about what happened once we were home?
Yes.
So, okay, I'm glad you agree with me. So really, when we got home, the first 2 weeks was staying with my sister, visiting friends from the part of England that we're from. And it was really busy, wasn't it? I felt more busy then than we were when we were traveling. We were always going different places, seeing people. Fortunately, my mum let us borrow her car, which is something to bear in mind to people, transport when you get back home. So that was really useful.
Yeah, I just can't believe how busy we were just catching up. And I think if you are doing a big trip like this, my biggest piece of advice is leave 2 weeks before you commit yourself to anything. I don't know whether, you might be lucky enough to come home to a job or, I don't know, just some sort of commitment that you need a lot of energy for. I think you need at least 2 weeks to just stop and calm down. Relax in a bed that you know you're safe in. I remember when we got back to your mum's house, particularly because while we were away, your sister moved into her new house. So I'd never slept there before. So, it's unknown surroundings. But as soon as we got to your mum's house, which is probably our closest point of home,
yeah,
I'd slept there before. I felt comfortable. I felt safe. I had the best sleeps.
We had to catch up on a lot of sleep. We were jet lagged, but obviously we were tired as well. But it was a week staying with my sister. Then we had 2 weeks at my mum's, which is the other side of the country. It's far away from kind of lots of friends and family. So we did have more time to do nothing. But it was weird, wasn't it? We both felt like, even though we needed the time to relax, we still hadn't really relaxed since being home. We kind of felt like we still had to keep busy every day, looking for jobs and looking for where we're going to live. And it's no criticism to my mum or family, but when they say oh, how you doing? Do you have a good day today? We almost felt like we had to justify ourselves and say, yeah, we weren't just doing nothing all day. We've been looking for jobs. We've been doing this, doing that. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't 100% guilt-free relaxation.
No, it wasn't, which, we thought it would be like that, going home, being with a parent, but it just wasn't. And I guess that's just part of growing up. Even when you go home, well, for me anyway, I would never feel like I can stop being an adult, really. I can't stop and let someone look after me. It makes me feel uncomfortable. But I was just thinking of like the best analogy to explain what it's like to come back from a trip that big. It's almost like you're forced onto a conveyor belt, right? You know, the ones in the airports that are not up the stairs, they're straight. They're
Yeah.
They're not escalators, but
The floor moves.
the floor moves.
And then some people don't use them. Some people walk on the actual floor, and you're like, what are you trying to prove? Like, what kind
do
of
you think
mug?
you're better than walking on a conveyor belt? Who do you think you
They
are?
just walked double the distance, and we've got to the same place, but we got there much quicker. Sorry, carry on.
They do annoy us in airports, but it's almost like being on one of those. You're forced to be on this conveyor belt that keeps moving, and you want to get off, but you just can't. And it's really tiring, actually. But this is no way saying that, you know, it's not worth the trip. I would be on that conveyor belt for the rest of my life. It's worth that trip. But yeah, do you see what I mean? It's like being on that conveyor belt and you can't get off.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And also, this is where I think Instagram's a good thing. Whereas by the time we got home, we caught up with friends and family, but everyone kind of knew what we'd done on the trip, which I was glad about. I didn't want to come home and talk about it. Like, to every person we saw, explain where we went and what we did and what was the best, what was the worst. And of course, we still got some questions like that, and we're happy to talk about it. But we don't want to be those people who always say, oh yeah, this one time I took a gap year I went traveling and blah, blah, blah. They can come across a bit lectury. And then people can feel insecure around people like that. Maybe someone hasn't traveled. And then when we say to them, so what have you been doing all year? They're like, oh, not as much as you. But like, everyone's different. But what I mean is I didn't want to go into detail. And that's where Instagram was good. Everyone kind of knew what we'd done.
It was brilliant, and a lot of people came up to us and they actually said, there's no point in me asking you about the trip because I saw it all. And so many people said to us, I feel like we're on the trip with you. So I'd recommend Instagram as a tool to take with you to not only document your trip so your friends and family can see it, but something to look back on. Like, since being home, there's been a few times where I've just been on my own and I just look through my Instagram and our What the Faux one. I just think, wow, what an incredible year. And when you think about the trip, a few highlights obviously come up in your head, but then going through Instagram, you're like, oh yeah, we went there. And it's a really good reminder. But then also on the negative side of Instagram, don't feel that when you go on this trip every day you've got to post, and because it can get so tiring. I feel like that's the word we've used the most, tiring, in this episode. But it can get you really anxious. And even our friend Becky, who came on the trip with us for a bit in Mexico for a month, even in like her 4th day, she was like, I just don't want to be funny today, because she's really funny on Instagram and her stories and stuff.
It's a lot of effort.
And she was showing how bad she is at traveling. That was the whole point of the account. And she was like, I just can't be bothered today. And she felt really bad about it. And I was like, no, take a day for you. You don't need to post every single day.
100%, yeah, it's finding that balance. But now we've been back home, yeah, we've got nothing that interesting, you could say, to post about. But even like pictures from the past year, even now, you guys listening have probably noticed, we haven't been motivated at all to do much on our social media. We'll try and pick it up again, but it's just, we've been doing it for over a year, and it's nice to stop doing it for a while.
Absolutely. Take a step back, re-energise, and then we'll come back strong. But at this point, we've been home just shy of 2 months. So I think we're about a week away from 2 months. And Nick, you've got a job.
And Amy, you might be going to prison.
I will, but we'll explain that in a second. Can we just have a brief little tidbit, is that what you'd call it, of what your job is? Yeah, snippet of your job.
Yeah, my new job is working for the Travel Agent Flight Centre. Most people have probably seen their shops on the high street, but it's the business side of it. So it's the part of the company that helps businesses travel around the world. You know, like if you've got to go to a conference in America or wherever, most people fly in business class or first class, but that's what my job is. So it's kind of travel, which I'm delighted about. It's the first time I've worked in the travel industry, but it's more like the business side of it. And yeah, I was pleased to get a job so soon, but I was on the internet applying for quite a lot of jobs, and there's a lot of crap out there, as you guys know. And I hate doing CVs. I hate applying for jobs. It's such a laborious process.
Big word.
Good word. This was the first job I saw that I thought, I like the look of that job. I think I could do that. But it wasn't where we lived in England. It wasn't in the south. It wasn't anywhere near London. It was in Manchester. And we spoke about it. And we thought, why not? We don't live anywhere. We could apply for a job anywhere we want. We'll follow the work rather than the other way around.
And just to give some context, so Manchester is about 4.5 hour drive away from where we used to live. But yeah, we had the chat. Well, I always say this, we didn't really have the chat. We were just like, go for the job, see what happens, and we'll see how we feel. And once you'd kind of got halfway through the process, I don't think you were told that you'd got the job. And they said, would you want it in London? Then they were kind of querying it. And then both our gut feeling, we were like, no, we want to go to Manchester now.
Yeah, we wanted a new city. You know, it was the turn of the year, new job, new city. Let's go for it. So we've been living in Manchester for about 2 weeks as we record this, and we still haven't got a chance to get to know the city. But what I've seen so far, love it. Really liking it up in the north of England. And a couple of months ago, I never would have believed that's what our situation was going to be. But here we are.
Never in my life would I think I would live up north in England. You know, it's colder, there's more rain. I didn't see much culture up here. I'm sorry if you're from the north of England, but before this, I hadn't seen that there was much culture up here. You know, I'm one of those annoying people that I think, you know, London's where it's at. We were about half an hour train journey before to London. I loved Essex. I love where we live. Everybody was there, friends and family. And I thought that was it. That was all I wanted, plus travelling. But coming home, I'm loving Manchester so far. So many people have told me it's their favourite city in the UK. It's just really exciting. And I think the reason we're telling you this, that we've moved to a new city, I'm not saying this is what you should do when you come home from a big trip, but it has definitely helped my holiday blues, my wanderlust, whatever you want to call it. When you come home from a big trip, even a small holiday, and you feel really down, I haven't had that yet. And we've been home for 2 months, and I get that a lot after every trip. It knocks me quite bad, actually. But this time I just haven't got it. And I think it's because I've been so busy. And I think that's my big tip for traveling. And when you come home, keep yourself busy. Find new things to do. Find a new city to live in. Find a new job. At the moment, I'm looking at loads of classes that I want to do. On Thursday, I'm starting language classes in Portuguese. So I'm going to meet a bunch of new people in this new city. You know, it's all about getting yourself out there and knowing that it's really easy to think if traveling's your passion, once you've done it, you come home and you think, actually, my life's over now. You could think that. And you think, oh, what have I got to be here for? I'm just going to save until I can go again. But, you know, life isn't just when you're traveling, if that's your passion in anything. Like, if music's your passion, you're not only living when you're playing music. So I think always keep yourself busy and find interests and find new people to meet, just like you would when you're traveling.
Great advice. But yeah, we have been very busy since coming home, so we haven't really had a chance to have the holiday blues, like you said. The whole process when we were homeless and I was going for this job interview and I'm still applying for other jobs, that was a strange limbo to be in, because after staying at my mum's for 2 weeks, we went down to London. We stayed with a few different friends, including Carl, who everyone knows from the podcast.
Carl Watson.
He hasn't. You always surname him.
Because not everybody knows. If I was listening, I'd be like, who the hell is Carl?
Well,
not everybody knows who he is.
I love that. Who the hell is Carl? He hasn't been on this series yet. He's been on every other series, but he hasn't got the invite. The last episode he came on, he didn't get us the numbers that we were hoping for. But no, we kindly stayed with him for a bit in London, and we were in limbo. And again, we were fortunate that for a few weeks we could borrow my mum's car. So this is a big part of coming home. You do need some support from friends and family. So we were able to use my mum's car. But all of our wardrobe and possessions were in the back of the car. We were living out of her car, basically. And then we drove all the way up to Manchester for my interview. Then I'm on the side of the road, changing into a suit in our car, just thinking, what has our life become? If the people interviewing me knew that I'd just got changed, inside my car, maybe I wouldn't have got the job. But appearances can be deceiving. As long as you turn up smart and in a good mood, then you're halfway there. But wasn't it a weird limbo? And once I got the job, we did some apartment hunting, found one that was it could be ready straight away, furnished as well, which is what you need if you've sold all your furniture. So it all really fell into place. But I was so happy once the job was confirmed, and then we knew we were living in Manchester. And it's finally, we could figure out the rest later, but finally we have a base and our own home.
And an income as well. So we'll talk about me going to prison soon, but I'm mid-job point at the moment. So because we didn't know where we were at with your job, and because we're a couple, we come as a package deal, I didn't know whether to apply for jobs at home or whatever. So until we came up to Manchester, I didn't start applying for jobs, right? But Nick, you've gone through the whole job process, essentially. And this isn't a job podcast, but it's part of coming home. What would be your top tip for someone coming home from a big trip like that and finding a job? How would you recommend they start looking at the end of their trip or once they get home? You know, some top tips.
Yeah. I didn't look at the end of the trip. Like I said, we were tired. We were happy we were coming home, but I was bummed out enough that the trip was coming to an end. I didn't want to start applying for jobs as well. But that is sensible, yeah. First, I'd say who you know. But secondly, if you are applying for jobs online, there's still good stuff out there. Don't get me wrong. You just have to put the time in. And it's not the most fun thing to do if you've just been traveling for the last year, enjoying yourselves. But in the end, it is worth it. And when it came to the job interview, they asked me to, bring a presentation. There was a lot of work to go into it. And as long as you just put the effort in, put a bit of thought, a bit of effort in, then you got a good chance of getting it. Because the truth is, a lot of people just don't put much thought into it. Like I had to give a little presentation and they said about something you're passionate about. So I thought, okay, travel. I gave a little presentation about Brazil. And just because I brought some slideshows with me, on the computer, put a bit of effort, done a bit of research, it went a long way because I don't think most people do that, to be honest.
Some of our friends who take interviews, they interview people, they've said you'll be shocked how many people turn up not smart, not in a suit or not prepared. So yeah, I think you're just saying, just your top tip is throw yourself into it when you get home.
Yeah, just go it. Just go it. Just do it, I meant to say. Just keep going and going and going.
Right, let's talk about me going to prison.
Explain.
I've made it into a big thing. It's not really. If you've listened to the podcast before, you'll know that I used to work in radio for the BBC before we went travelling. That's the job that I quit to travel the world. So I've come home and I still want to work in radio. It's a great industry to work in. And so I've seen a prison radio producer job. And so I've applied. Let's see if I get to go to prison.
Amazing. It'd be so interesting because you'll be working with people who are about to come out of prison, but like preparing them for life on the outside. So that's such worthwhile work. It sounds really interesting. I hope it works out for you, Amy. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but no pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself when I tell people about jobs. So, I've just told a whole podcast about it. But, that's what part of it is coming home is challenging yourself again and like going for jobs. You might not get them, but you pick yourself up again and get on with it. Anyway, that's enough of job talk because jobs are boring. Let's talk about traveling.
Yes, and specifically your travel questions that you guys sent in. There's some good ones here. There's one in particular, which is a cracking question, one of the best I've ever heard. Let's start with these legends, the Global Snowbirds.
So they asked, what is something that you didn't think you'd miss, i.e. putting things in a wardrobe? Yeah, now there were lots of these actually, and I think we explained them on the last long-term episode. We missed having a wardrobe, we missed having a laundry bin. When your clothes are dirty, you're having to put them back in your bag. We put them in a different section, but it's still not good enough, is it? Just a bit gross. And then also having somewhere to put our toothbrushes.
Yeah, for me, that was the big one. Toothbrush holder. We actually had some great little plastic toothbrush holders, so your toothbrush is not loose in your bag. But even so, somewhere just to put your toothbrush when you're done. And then the next morning you go back and there it is waiting for you. I think that was the thing I missed the most.
For the plastic police there, they were reusable cases.
But I've just washed them today, actually. They're ready for the next trip.
Let's go to Africa now. Yeah, I think it is just stuff like that, really. For me, coming home, that laundry bin, I'm looking at it now. It's grey, it's beautiful. I love it so much. You can pick it up, carry it to the washing machine. You don't have to take all the clothes out. It's great. It literally turns me on. I love it.
But this is it. It's simple things like this that you don't think you're going to miss.
Yeah, and actually just a TV, which is a big thing, but not necessarily the TV, but having your own space that you can just sit down and watch TV for the evening and know you're not going to get bothered. No, you don't have to socialise with anyone. And do you know what, actually? It's just reminded me, something that I didn't think I'd miss, my own time. I love being on my own. I love it. And like with Nick's job, he's just done 2 weeks of training in London. And I was really scared because, we've been together for 426 days straight together. The only time we spent apart on this whole trip was Nick went to a football game by himself. I went to a dance class. So, it's a matter of hours. So I was really scared with Nick going away for 2 weeks, not being able to see him. Like, he's like my left arm now. But I actually loved it. I mean, I want you to go.
2 weeks.
I want you to go back to London. I loved it. Just having my own space, eating when I want to eat, showering when I want to shower. I can do yoga, meditate, get on with some work. I don't have to work during the day. with people saying, not that Nick does this, but with people saying, oh, do the work now. I could work in the evening if I feel like it. I love that. So that's my answer to that question. Next question is by Green Bryn.
And they, I think it's she, they or she asked, how much money did you plan on coming back to start over? What did it need to cover? Yeah, no, this is a big thing. I think we've mentioned before, actually, we always had some money that we knew we're coming home to, which we never thought was part of our travel budget. And yeah, the thing is, when you come home, you do need money. Like, even if you're staying with a friend or family, you still need a bit of money every now and then to chip in for things or pay for petrol to get around, you know, to get to job interviews. And when you want to rent a flat, you need to be able to prove that you got some money. So unfortunately, this is the very boring answer, but I think you do need to come back to some money, which we've realised it's really helped us, the fact that we did have some to come back to.
Yeah, I would say minimum £1,000. Although I'm thinking for both of us, so one person, I think you'd be good with £1,000. That gets you like a month, maybe 2 months to live, and while you're searching for a job, to get to job interviews. You know, Nick's job interview, we were down south, and to get the train up and back for his interview was like £100 on the train. So, you know, you need money for stuff like that. And if you haven't kept your smart clothes back for when you come for job interviews, you need that. Yeah, I think I would say you need at least £1,000, but we're going to really go into money at the end of this episode.
Yeah, and just final thing on that, what you need to think about is you might be looking for a job for a month or two. Then when you start the job, you don't get paid for another month. So
that's true.
Unfortunately, it's not like, yeah, let's just blow all your money traveling. You only live once. Unless you've got friends and family to come back to who will support you and you have somewhere to live for a while, unfortunately, you need to have some money to come back to. £1,000, £2,000, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, me saying £1,000 doesn't really help because that's in the UK, so we know how much that would go. So I just say enough for like a month and 2 months to live without a job and being able to search for one as well, and just paying for your food, you know, staying with friends. And there's going to be a few times where you're going to want to go out with your friends. You haven't seen them for a long time. You're going to want to see them. You just need money to cover you for that, I would say.
Yep. Next question. 017 Williams on Instagram.
And they said, is it weird adjusting to being back home? No. So many of our friends and family, it's like the first thing they ask us when we say, is it weird being back home? And my answer was always, it's weird that it's not weird.
Yeah, correct. Sometimes it felt like we'd never left, really.
In a scary way, though, it's almost like none of this ever happened and we've actually just moved from Essex to Manchester in one go. So, no, it wasn't weird. Everybody's still the same. It's quite depressing, actually. Going back to the city that we used to live in, we were driving one point and I just turned to Nick and I was like, everything's the same and it's scary. Imagine if we'd been here for the entire year, we would be the same people. We don't push ourselves as much at home as we do when we're traveling. We don't meet new people, new cultures, people who, you know, expand the way we think about things, argue with us, debate with us, make us a better person. You don't meet as many. You do still meet them at home, but not as many as when you're traveling.
Yeah, at home you get comfortable and suddenly a 40-year career can just, you blink and it's gone and you think like, oh, I was just comfortable. Did I really push myself? Yeah, I'd say it's weird that it's not weird.
Next question is by Luke Teasdale.
Luke asked us, what was the most disappointing or underwhelming place you visited on the trip? I think I'll start. It's about expectation, isn't it? And the pyramids in Egypt. I know we mentioned before in the Egypt episode, you can listen in detail if you want to go back to that one. Yeah, I was there expecting to see one of the most amazing things I'm ever going to see in my life. And I was a bit like, yeah.
You're right, it is about expectations, and I did feel a bit underwhelmed with the pyramids. I was fascinated by them when I was a kid, and Tutankhamun especially, so it was somewhere I always wanted to go. It was on my bucket list, but there was still some magic to it. I think the real disappointing and underwhelming place was Huacachina in Peru.
Oh, the oasis that all travellers say is amazing.
I don't get it. everybody goes there to get drunk, and I guess that's why they think it's amazing. And I would definitely say if you've never been to any sort of sand dunes, and this is me being a
Travel snob.
travel snob, sorry, but if you've been to any sort of sand dunes before, I would say Huacachina is not going to be somewhere that you're going to like. It's really dirty.
It is dirty.
It's cool when you get up to the top of the sand dune, you can see all of them in the distance, maybe for sunset. Great. Like, if you're nearby, probably should pop over, but it's not somewhere you stay longer than a day. You can go out on the bikes and go around all the sand dunes. That's really great fun. But we had already been to the Sahara Desert. We'd been to the dunes in Brazil. We'd been to dunes in Australia. And these were by far the worst in Peru. They were dirty, lots of rubbish everywhere. The sand was turning black because of all the rubbish. It wasn't clean. And I don't like it.
Yeah, that and one more, Chichen Itza in Mexico. I think by that point we just realised world wonders, archaeological sites are just not our thing. They're very expensive, they're very crowded. We prefer, sitting on the side of the street talking to Mexican people, eating tacos. That to us is real Mexico. Chichen Itza, yeah, it's good to learn about the ancient civilizations, but the whole day when I was there, I was a bit like, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Again, Huacachina was worse for me. But that's just us. You might be different. You might love history, love archaeological sites. So then that's your thing. That's just our style of traveling.
All right, next question is from Vinny Vicious, who is from Santos in Brazil.
He asked, how do you find the time and place to work when traveling? Great question.
Yeah, we're always struggling to fit it in to get that balance. But on buses, for me, was a big one, doing work on the laptop. Our laptop's small enough just to whip it out. Small enough to whip it out. No one
Lots
notices.
of things that you have are small enough to whip out.
Yeah, no one would notice. Buses, hostels. Sometimes we booked like a day or two extra in places and we just stayed in our room and did work.
And this is becoming a really popular thing, working and traveling, remote working, digital nomad, all those sorts of words for it. And hostels are really catching on. There were so many hostels that we stayed in, we didn't even realise while booking. But once we arrived, we saw that actually they have desks out, and they're great because they have charging points on the top of the desk. So you've got electricity, you can plug in your laptop, sit there and work. The only problem I would say is the noise. Hostels are obviously really noisy. If you're a person that really needs quiet and calm to work, it's not going to work for you. It also didn't work for us because of recording while traveling and trying to get a quiet place so that the recording sounds good. So we normally just recorded in our bedroom like we are now. We're sitting on our bed in our apartment. But yeah, I think hostels are really catching on. Backpacking places are really easy to do that sort of thing. So if that's something you're looking at doing, traveling full time and working, or even if it's for a few months and you want to keep a job going, I would say you've got no problem with that. You can always work in your room. Obviously, if you're staying in dorm rooms, that might not work. I don't know. We never really did that. But there's always a space. There's always tables. You could just go in a cafe for the day. You can go to a restaurant. There's so many places you can go. And also emotionally, I actually was kind of looking forward to the work days because it was a time I could just stop. I don't have to walk 6, 7, 8 miles a day, which I loved, but you need those days off. So when I needed a mental break, we would go out traveling and exploring. When I needed a physical break, we'd stay in and work. And it worked really well, actually.
Well said. I can't add anything to that. You answered the question perfectly. So next question, moving on, it's Calvito. Sound like
Yes,
Roy
I
Walker
know.
then.
It's Ray Walker.
That's Roy Walker.
Oh, Roy
Catchphrase.
Walker.
It's Calvito.
Do you still use wet wipes while you're at home? So I think we need a bit of a backstory to this. Explain.
Everyone knows my wet wipe story. It's weird if you only use paper to wash your bum after you have a poo. You need extra cleanage. And
Unless you're in Asia and you've got a bum gun.
bum gun, exactly. Yes, I do. You might be at work and on your lunch break and you go to the toilet and you need to be clean for the rest of the day. I do, but I must admit I need to find some plastic-free wet wipes. But yes, wet wipes are essential to me.
See, I'm glad you answered that because I didn't know, because we've been apart for 2 weeks. I didn't know if you were still doing that.
Used one yesterday.
Oh dear. Yeah, lots of plastic in the world, so we're going to find some Maybe there's like some bamboo wipes out there or something. But that also brings me into the conversation of putting toilet paper down the toilet. So a lot of countries don't do that. They put it in the bin. And actually, that was a really big adjustment for me when I came home. I felt rude putting paper down the toilet and flushing it. Just felt like I was really hurting the environment. But obviously, in the UK, we have sewage systems where they look after that. They clean the water. So it's all fine. But it felt really weird. And if I ever saw a bin, my natural reaction was to put it in the bin. I never did accidentally. Obviously, I would have put it into the toilet after. But yeah, that was a weird adjustment.
It does feel like you're doing something wrong, doesn't it? Putting paper down the toilet, because we're so used to not doing it.
Next question is from Kendall Husband. When's the next faux party?
Good question.
Do you want to explain what a faux party is first?
Yeah, we've done 2 episodes on it already. You can listen. Faux party, where we organise a venue, ask listeners to join us. Anyone that likes travelling can come along, hang out with backpackers and have a great time. The 2 we've done have been fantastic. They just take a lot of time to organise and effort, and you never know if anyone's going to turn up. The 2 we have done have been great. I want to do more. I wish we had done more by now. I wish we did them while we're travelling. Again, it was just hard to find the right place and the right time to do it. And because we've been so busy sorting our lives out, I haven't thought about it yet. But I would like to say within the next 4 or 5 months, we can do something, but nothing's been planned yet.
And actually, you guys can help us with this. So now we're living in Manchester. Maybe we have a lot of listeners in the north of England. I'm not too sure. But can you get in touch with us and say if it's possible for you to get to London or Manchester? Because then that can help us in organising it. We don't know. We've done 2 in London so far. So it might be some people from the north, you're crying out for one up here. But if you let us know on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook or on our website, then you can help us to help you, and we'll create one. And if you've never been to one before, they are really great. It's a great way to meet up with travellers, get some travel inspiration, meet different people. You never know, you might meet someone that you're going to go on your next trip with, and everybody there's really like positive. It's just like going out for a night out in Thailand or in Buenos Aires. You just meet a bunch of travellers and have a great night. So yeah, I definitely want to do another one.
Some people in Scotland, some of our listeners have said do it in Scotland, which I like the idea of. Also, I really want to do like a weekend somewhere in Europe. I do want to do one in Europe, but that's even more logistics. I don't know. I want to. Will it happen? I can't guarantee.
Well, that could happen. Like if you want to go on holiday with us, I was going to say pay for us. No. If you want to do that, if you want a faux party abroad, tell us. Because, I'm happy to organise it. And, it could turn into a whole big trip. So
we've said
trip.
We said we want to do some weekends in Europe. So yeah, maybe somewhere central and cheap.
Let us know what you're up for in a message, and we'll see if we can accommodate you.
Do you want us to whip it out or not? Next.
Right, next question. You can say this one.
Yeah. Next question. Some of you guys have your Instagram names. What? Bulud O Con Camera.
There you go. They asked.
I'm going to read this because you've read the last 2.
Oh, okay.
How much do you think people can travel around before they develop commitment issues?
I think that was some great reading of that question. Well done.
Thank you. I was due a question. We're not really sure how to answer this. Do we think this person means like if you're traveling with someone and you just want to do your own thing, or commitment issues where it comes to like being in one country, want to leave because you're done in that place? What do you think it means?
How much do you think people can travel around before they develop commitment issues? I take that as, how long can you travel for until you get bored of it? And for us, we found that month 8 or 9-ish, we had a bit of a blip where we were just a bit tired and a bit fed up, and we were just seeing a lot of the same stuff. It's a bit like when you're in Asia. Oh, cool, a temple. Oh, cool, a temple. Yep. Once you've seen one temple, you've seen them all. Correct. It is a bit like that. You get culture from this podcast. But yeah, it definitely got to that point. But it was also because we were, I think, around Peru. And we didn't really like Peru. So it might have been because of that. And it made us go into a little bit of a blip. But I think it's down to what time frame you've got in your head. Say we go away for a month. Towards the end of the month, I start to get tired and I think, oh, I can't wait to get home. If we're away for 3 months, I'd get that just at the end. And then again, when we'd got to a year and 2 months, I was like, yes, now I'm ready to go home. If you were going away for 5 years, it would happen the same way, I think. So I think it's what you've got in your head. You keep your mind does everything. Even with exercise, you know, you think, oh, I'm going to run for half an hour. And towards the end, you'll get tired. Where if you're going to run for a minute, you'd get tired. I think it's all about your brain power.
I agree. It's mindset and expectation. Next question from Steph's Traveling.
Are you hogging all the questions?
You can read it now.
What would you have done differently? This question is also by Together We Find. So thanks for your question as well. We are going to be getting to your questions later as well, Together We Find, because you asked quite a few, but this was one of them. What would you have done differently? It's difficult to say because actually I feel like our trip was perfect. It was perfect for what we wanted. We wanted to spend most of our time in South America. That's what we did. We also hit Europe, the Middle East, North America, Central America. I don't think we would do anything differently.
It's a really tough question because I know what you mean. It was what we wanted it to be. Of course, it wasn't perfect. There were ups and downs. And we might do something where we think, oh, I can't think of an example now, but we might do something and think that was stupid. We shouldn't have done that. And like little things like that, if, I don't know, someone took something out of our pocket and we're like, oh, we were idiots. We weren't being very aware. That never actually happened. But overall, I think you're right. What would we have done differently? Towards the start, we booked up a load of flights because they were cheap. And what that meant was we were in Egypt for way longer than we wanted to be because we had a flight booked. Like, really, we wanted to leave a week before we actually did. But because we had that flight booked and it was non-refundable, we had to wait around for a week. That's the only thing I can think of where really we screwed that up. The rest went pretty well.
Yeah, completely agree with that. You know, we booked those flights and we said at the time we shouldn't have done that. That's that. Next question. I think we've already kind of answered this one. It was Adam Cycling the World. What's been the biggest challenge returning? Do you have any advice for anyone who's been away?
Yeah, we did talk about it, but you do need some support when you get home, unless you've got a load of money and you can come home and get yourself into a house or a flat straight away. Some people actually own homes, rent them out when they're away traveling, so they've got income the whole time, and then when they come back home, they're straight into a house. Great. But if that's not your situation, wasn't ours, you need some help, and I think you need some money when you come home.
Yeah, and my biggest tip is to keep busy or move to a new city. I really think it helps. I'm loving it. It's almost like I'm still traveling because I'm still discovering this new city.
Yeah.
Luckily, it is Manchester, and I think last year it was crowned the cultural city of the UK. So we're really lucky with this. There's so much to explore here. So yeah, I think keep yourself busy mainly. Chuck yourself into it, finding a new job, meeting new people still. Maybe meeting up with some travellers, like a faux party, something like that, where you can meet people who understand your mindset more rather than like your friends and family, you know. Right, next question.
Together We Find, they asked us, was it difficult to stick to your £30 a day budget?
We are definitely talking about budget. Just in a second, we've got a couple more questions, but we will get to that.
They also asked, this is the good one. They also asked, if you could relive one day of your trip, which one would it be? Congratulations, guys. That's a great question.
We do love that. As soon as we saw it, we were like, yes, I'm excited to answer this. Now, for me, one day really jumped into my head. As soon as I read the question, this day jumped in. But then I'm kind of second guessing it, thinking, is that the day though? But I'm just going to go with my gut instinct. It was one of the days we were on the cruise on the Galapagos Islands, and we had already done a few snorkeling trips, and we didn't really see anything too exciting. But then we went out in the afternoon, and within minutes we saw a turtle. We were swimming with that. Then after that, we were in the middle of a feeding ground of these pelicans, and they were, you know, diving straight into the water with their beaks, cutting into the water. And because we had snorkeling gear on, as soon as they cut into the water, you can look under and see them like engulf all of the fish or sardines. And it was just incredible. And I think the night before, obviously it's only one day that you can relive, but the night before we'd just seen about 200 sharks in the water all in one go. It was incredible. I think that's the one day that really stands out to me that I'd want to relive.
100%. That was a special day. I've been thinking of a few. Cappadocia, Petra, the time in the north of Chile in the desert was amazing. The salt flats, loads of great days in Brazil. But I'm actually going to go for the first day of our San Blas trip, San Blas Islands, because, well, you've heard it before. The first day, we were a great group of people, picture perfect, can't fault it. Do you remember later that night we all rowed boats over to where we were staying, and then it was evening by this point, but then we all jumped in the water.
Oh, it was so good.
That was one of those travel days where it's like, yep, this is why we're traveling the world, to be in places like this. Loads come up, loads of days in Mexico, so many special times, but I'm going to go for day one of our Sandblast tour.
Good choice. And that was really good as well, because we were with the local indigenous people. They were teaching us
It had everything that day.
how they rowed their canoes. It was amazing. Yeah, so together we find you had lots of questions, but I think we've answered your other ones previously. So what would you do differently? How do you feel a year of traveling, tired, need a break? So yeah, we've answered all that. So thanks very much for all of your questions. We've now got to the bit that everybody wants to hear, budget. And this comes from Esme Mai on Instagram. They asked, how did your budgeting work out? Can you compensate expensive places by inexpensive places?
Yes, you can. When we started our trip, it was more the expensive places, and we finished off in the cheaper places, which is the way to do it. 100%. They cancel each other out. But we spoke about a £30 a day budget. We've done some maths.
We have done some maths. We went through both of our bank accounts and went through, because we thought we'd spend about 22, 23, 24,000 for both of us. So that's for two of us.
Over a year. That's good.
Yeah,
Well,
very
that's
good.
that's what we thought.
Yeah. Do you want to get that calculator out, Nick?
Okay.
So we worked out, okay, that we actually spent £27,309. This is a rough estimate.
And the
okay?
reason why we don't know what we left with is because we earned some money on the road. So it kind of
Yeah.
blurred a bit between what we left with and then we earned some money and, you know.
Yeah, and if you don't know, that's because we edit other people's podcasts. It's a side business that we have running, and it's great because you can work on the road. And if that's something that you want to do, work on the road, look at what skills you've got. I think I spoke about this in the second long-term episode, but just look at your skills. How can they be used over the internet? And you can find some sort of business through websites like Upwork, where they employ freelancers. But we spent £27,309 for both of us, okay? Our daily budget was £30 a day. Now, we did a rough estimate earlier of what that goes to. We went traveling for 426 days. So we did, the sum divided by the amount of days. That gives us what we spent per day. And it was quite high. But then we realised we forgot what we spent on the credit card.
Yeah, we also came home with some credit card debt, which is fine. I think towards the end of the trip, we needed it to book our flight home.
Yeah.
Pay it off later, no problem.
That was about £2,000, which we're happy with. We know we can pay that off in like a couple of months after working. But yeah, the final sum was the 27,000. So Nick, do 27,309 divided by 426 days.
This is the first time we're doing this to work out what our actual daily total was.
When you click equals, our daily total was
£64 a day.
Oh geez. So it was meant to be 30, but the reason we want to explain this to you is because we were, more often than not, we were sticking to our £30 a day budget, whether that was accommodation, food, activities for the both of us per day. But that £64 shows all those sneaky little things that you do not account within your budget. Obviously, flights are quite a big thing, but there were all these extra things, insurance, laundry, all this different visas.
Visas in some countries. If you want to get into Petra, it could be like 50 quid gone straight away, and you're not going to go all the way to Jordan and not go to Petra.
It was just all these sneaky little fees that we didn't necessarily think about when we were looking at our everyday budget. I think if you're just paying for accommodation, food, activities, it was easy to stay under £30 for two people. But yes, all those extra costs took it up to £64 a day.
For two people, that's still £30 each. I think that's good.
Yeah.
For everything that we've done. But, some days between the two of us in total, we only spent £17. But then there are other days, like in Israel, especially in the USA and New York, we spent like £150, £200 a day. So you can see how we've ended up with £60 a day. I think that's pretty good. High five, Amy.
And actually, I was just thinking about Carl Watson. I'm going to second name him. But on his video, when he did his 9-month trip, which was Hong Kong to New York, at the end of it, he did a budget video. And I'm pretty sure he spent £27,000.
I think it's something like that. Bearing in mind that's just for him, and that's for 9 months, so one person less time. Yeah,
so
I know.
We're better than Carl Watson.
So what we're saying is we're way better travellers. No, but then I was going to say, of course, he did like loads of cool things every single day, and even he'd admit like that's the trip he wanted to do.
Yeah,
we did it a cheaper way, but traveling's expensive, man.
Yeah, he did way more tours. He was doing quite regularly. He was doing adrenaline stuff like bungee jumps or skydives. He was doing a lot of that. And obviously, if you're like traveling on your own, you're going to have a lot more nights out drinking.
Yeah.
And that's his style of traveling. Like he loves doing all that. And don't get me wrong, we love it as well. But this trip was more about staying with local people, spending as little money as possible, seeing how cheap we could do it. So yeah, we love both styles of traveling. But this trip was about that because we wanted to go as long as possible. But yeah, it's all about looking at your budget. What can you do within that time? And I think underestimate yourself. I don't know. But if you want to do 6 months, if you think it's going to cost X amount, add on an extra like £2,000 maybe.
Yeah.
If you're from the UK, just add on a bit of extra money because there's always going to be those sneaky fees that you don't think about. I think we've done well. I'm really happy with that. £27,000, half of that, 13,500 each. I'm super happy with that. The year that we've had, you couldn't put a price on it. Absolutely loved it. So that's the budget. Next bit, how has it changed us?
Interesting. Has this trip changed us? Yes. If we're talking about destinations we've been to, like, because we really took the time to learn about a place and learn about the history, I feel like I know so much compared to before the trip. For example, we were watching a Simon Reeve program on BBC. He's a travel presenter. He was in Mexico, and like he skipped through so much of it, and he like covered 3 pretty boring topics, and then that was like, Mexico's done, next country. And we're thinking, you've missed...
You don't know.
Yeah, you've missed so much. You have no idea what Mexico's like.
No. I didn't even see him eat a taco with some, like, hombres.
So, in a weird way, we feel a bit snobby, like, you got no idea. Like, and even we had no idea before this trip. But, of course, when it comes to travel, I just feel like we know a lot. But it's also given me a thirst to learn even more. Like, I'm still keeping up learning Spanish on Duolingo because I picked up the basics when we were traveling. I want to keep learning. I want to learn language. I want to learn about more countries. I want to learn about more history, go into more depth about like the history in Mexico, even stuff we don't know. I want to learn more. So I think that's how it's changed me, actually.
That's true. I'd agree with that. I think I wanted to learn more. You know, I improved on my Spanish because we were in Spanish-speaking countries for like a year. I learnt a new language with Portuguese, kind of the basics. I'm kind of conversational. And so, like I said, on Thursday, I'm starting my Portuguese classes, which I'm really excited about. So I'm developing that. And I just want to be more clever and better version of myself. I think it just shows you all the time that death is never far away, even if you're young. So you just need to like grab life by the balls and just live life. And I know it's so corny, you know, YOLO and all of that, but it's so true. You really do need to just like grab every day. And I'm sure we're going to slump back into, you know, work, come home, watch TV, work, come home, watch TV. But at least we've had that experience. At least we know it works and that we can do it again if we want to. We can save up money again and do it. Which takes me on to the next point, but I did just want to say, how has it changed us? That really reminded me of a scene at the end of Wolf of Wall Street. Do you know what I'm going to say?
No idea.
No. Well, at the end, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, so he's been taking drugs all of his life.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Been taking drugs all of his life, and then he sobers up, and then he meets an old friend he used to do drugs with, and they just have this really good conversation. It just feels so... It just really resonates with me right now if I ever meet a traveller. He says, what's life like for you now? And he's like, man, it's just, I don't know the direct quote, but he's like, it's just so boring when you're not taking drugs. And I feel like that with traveling, like every day. It's kind of exciting now because it's a new city, but once we really settle in, I'm a bit scared that life's going to be boring without traveling.
Not enough.
It's not enough. And like I see people doing things and I'm kind of jealous of them because they're having fun and they're excited doing these little everyday tasks where I'm just like, that's so like, oh my God, like you could be
boring.
That is boring.
That's a quote from Killing Eve. BBC program.
This is so boring. But I just think I need to be going out doing more and more to be happy. So actually, has traveling made me happy? I'm not sure. Perhaps made me into a more frustrated person. But still, I would never take it back. You know, I just want more. I'm hungry. It's just made me more hungry.
It's pushing us to do more, learn more, just be more.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap up. But before we do, would we do this whole thing again? A big trip like this?
I didn't tell you this before the episode started, but our answers are very different.
Oh, wow. I would say no. Wouldn't do it. And that sounds really negative, but it's because I've done it. It's out of my system. I think it's too hard to save up all the money, like drop everything, come back and start all over again. I don't think we'll do something this big ever again.
I agreed with you at the end of the trip and like the first 2 weeks we were home. I think I'm now changing my mind. I think if you actually seriously came to me and said, what do you think about us saving money again and going again? I would say yes. I don't think I could turn it down. If it was an option, I wouldn't turn it down. I would just, maybe I would do things a bit differently. I wouldn't set my sights so high. Like we did 19 countries in 14 months. Maybe I'd want to go a lot slower. I'd maybe want to go to Italy for a whole couple of months and just stay in one place for a month. So yeah, I'm definitely up for the idea of it happening again if we had the option to. But I think this is the final question of this podcast, and it's by AEOMG on Instagram.
The question is, what will you do next?
Well, we've explained what that is in terms of real life, but in terms of traveling, we've got a few plans of stuff that we want to do, and at the moment it's just in talk. So we know that we're going to be going to France for a little bit because it's your mum, one of your mums it's your, I was meant to say
Parents.
one of your mum's birthday. No,
right.
It's a big birthday for your mum.
Yes.
Basically, I didn't want to say which one to be delicate.
Yeah.
But she's looking at hiring a place in France with all of your family, so we're going to spend some time there.
Yeah. Also, just little things like a friend of ours is having a stag do in Lisbon, which we're happy to go back to Lisbon. We love Portugal. And it's a weird situation because we're both going to be on the stag do.
Yeah.
Have you ever been on a stag do with your wife before? But it's like it's more your friend, really, isn't it?
And if you don't know what a stag do is, it's like a bachelor party.
Bachelor party, yeah.
The party for the guys before the wedding. But it's because it's my best friend, Adam. And
Modern times we live in.
yeah, and he was like, come on the stag do. And I've got to do a speech at the wedding, so that's all exciting. But yeah, he's chose Lisbon, which is quite special because he came to Lisbon when we were there and spent time with us. So
That's right.
I feel like we influenced him quite a lot there and gave him a good weekend.
So that'll get us back to Portugal, and we've actually got some Brazilian friends that now live in Lisbon, so hopefully we'll stay for an extra day to visit them. And we've already announced on social media that we're planning a little trip with our friend Carl. Who's that, Amy?
Carl Watson.
Carl Watson, yeah, like Eastern European road trip. If you've already watched his channel, you know the details, but some like fascinating countries like Belarus, Ukraine, Kosovo, like Albania. I'm well excited.
It is really exciting, and one of the places we stayed while coming back was at Carl's to kind of look at what we could do together. But things have changed a little bit. We were going to do at least a whole month, just us three, couch surfing our way through all these weird and wonderful countries that no one really travels. But now we're getting full-time jobs, that might change. And we're looking around August time for this. So it depends what situation we're in to how much we can do. But we're still super excited about it. Something will be happening at least.
Oh, yeah, we're still going to get involved, even if it's like 2 weeks rather than a month and we join him in the middle. Like, we'll work it out. This might be the first time he's hearing this. So, Carl, please be understanding. We need jobs. We need money. We can't all freelance and live the dream like you.
We're halfway there. We're halfway to getting that life. But the other thing, I would really like to see a bit of South Africa this year. It's the one country I've wanted to see for a really long time. Aside from Mexico and Brazil, it was the one country that I really want to see. So if we could do like a couple of weeks there, I know this is going over the time of what your
like
leave is at work.
2 weeks with Carl, 2
Yeah.
weeks in South Africa and a few weekends here and there. And more like Christmas and New Year, which means we don't have to take much time off work.
Yeah, and then that January next year will be my 30th birthday.
We've got to do something for that.
Exactly. So basically we need to quit our jobs so we can do all these plans. But these are the sort of things that we're talking about. We definitely aren't tired of traveling yet. It's just going to be shorter trips, more intense, shorter trips. And it's going to be amazing. I'm excited about 2020.
And as far as the podcast and YouTube channel goes, we're still catching up with this trip. So in this series, there is still loads more content coming. Don't think that this episode is the end, because it's not at all.
Absolutely not. Our next episode will be about Mexico, and we're going to break that down into 2, maybe 3 parts.
Big.
I think the first episode will be about the Mayan Riviera. So, you know, Cancun, Tulum, all that very holiday area. But there are some really cool backpacker spots in between. So if you're not interested so much in all the holiday bit, there's a massive scene there, especially now. On my Facebook, out of all the travel groups that I'm in, Mexico is the one that goes mad. Everybody's asking questions about it. So we'll be covering that in our next episode.
It's going to be big. Mexico, we got so much to tell you guys. What a place. We'll see you then.
Oh, well, see you on another time.
Don't forget, you can get in touch with the show. You can email us at whatthefaux@gmail.com. We are also on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and we are also on Patreon. For more information on all those things, you can go to our website at www.whatthefauxtravelpodcast.com.